Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to the Wisdom Corner. My name is Uziel Lewy, one of the teachers at Congregation Beit Ha'akak Ma'ubina. As you can see, today we're starting a new series, which we call the Wisdom Corner, with Nasik Zurishaddai, Ben Yehudah, one of my teachers for many years, a man that I've learned, that I've gotten a lot of knowledge from. And in the last few years, I've even gotten to receive even more understanding and more knowledge of things concerning Torah and concerning life. It says when you are young that you should aware the doorstep of a man of wisdom, and this is what I do. You know, it's equivalent to that, me talking to him on the phone and doing all those things. So first and foremost, giving glory to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of the universe, Yehodah, who Amen. Through him we get all understanding and we get all wisdoms. And he passes it on to to man, Amen. And man is able to pass it on to everyone and to share the wisdom of the Creator. So in this series, what we're going to do is we're going to begin to touch on the previous Parasha or Sidra, and the last one being that we did this past weekend on I believe that's February 1st. This past Shabbat was Parasha Bo, right? And because I have these very interesting conversations with Nasik Zurishaddai, and he brings out so many points that sometimes I miss, or sometimes I just flat out don't know. I asked him if it'll be okay for him to share with us some of that knowledge and understanding that the Most High God has blessed him with. And he's very adept at bringing out things that we can't see just by reading it just one time. And he questions me, and still till this day, he still puts a lot of pressure on me to be able to become better, to be a better person, to have better understanding of Torah. And this is what it's supposed to be about. Each one teach one. The older generation passes it down to the younger generation. And I asked them, and I felt like this was a good platform for him to share some of that knowledge with us. So I have him on the line right now. Nasik, can you say a few words, introduce yourself to the listening audience?
Well, besides all those, I'm humbled by all those accolades you dropped on me. but I'd like to share some of my background. I'm an exponent of B'nai Zakim from Tompkins Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. I had some phenomenal teachers coming up, very good lecturers in the community and outside the community. One of the things I learned coming up from my particular congregation was that they say they raise teachers and leaders. Everyone will not be a leader, which is a good thing. But everyone is commanded by the Creator to be a teacher. So that was pretty much our platform. And the win friends influence people to a better way of life and a better lifestyle, which meaning leading them, helping them find their way to the Creator. Not to us, but to the Creator. So it's never about us as a people. And I was taught early that you can learn from everyone. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I'm credited for giving insight, but sometimes it's a saying amongst the sages that you learn a lot from your teachers, you learn more from your colleagues, but the most you learn is from students, because they course you to think, and that's a great thing. So they help me get better, because as they get better, then they ask more difficult questions, and so we have to look at it from a different perspective. So that's pretty much my background. I've been around a while, and you have some good. I've been looking at some of the YouTube, listening to some of the YouTube, and know quite a bit of the young youth in the community, and I'm proud to say that most of you today is far more advanced at the age they're at than I was at their age. So that at least shows that we're making some kind of progress in the intellectual field as far as this way of life is concerned.
Hallelujah.
Hopefully, we could also make some progress in the spiritual field, because a lot of the people, though they knew less, they did more and was devoted more than most of the youth today. So that's the sad part about it. But I know one thing I always say, that we're guaranteed to be back at home in the end, because that's a promise from the Creator.
Hallelujah. So, like I said to all of you, we're gonna steal a little bit of the Crown Prince time, and we're gonna review. Or we're gonna highlight certain things. We're not gonna go through the whole portion. I don't think he wants to do that. But what we're gonna do is highlight certain things from Parasha Bo. Also, for the listening audience, if you have any questions, please write them on the comment board, so that way I could ask him at the end of his breaking down the things that he wants to that he's going to break down today in reference to last week's portion, Bo. So starting off, Nasik, let's.
All right, well, may I interject just a moment?
Okay.
All right. I just want to say, you're not stealing any of my time. Stealing is never good.
Okay.
All right. So the thing is that, I mean, I'm honored to be able to share my time
Hallelujah.
with people that's interested.
Hallelujah. So to the listening audience, this is some of the things that I go through. He's always correcting me, so this is good. All right. So you get to see him, how he is when he speaks to me on we speak. We could speak sometimes 3 to 4 times a week. So that's not rare for us. And for a couple hours at a time, we could speak. So I get a lot of this, and it keeps me sharp. So Nasik, starting off, what does Bo mean?
All right. Well, Bo as a word, and it's an imperative word, means to come. Now it's utilized in this Sidra, and that's another thing I like to share when I talk about Sidra, because a lot of people say the Parasha,
Right.
and that's a general term that it's referred to now. It's a Parasha.
Right.
But actually, the whole thing from Bo to you get to the part where they say Bishlach is Sidra.
Sidra.
And the Sidra is made up of 7 Parshiot.
Okay.
So now it's just broken down. So but they both interchange. Just like we say, we studied the Torah. We follow the Torah.
Right.
We say it in general, but we know we're talking about the Chumash, the first 5 books, when Torah itself means instructions. Now, both as a prefix, it could be as it could be as a suffix rather. It could be in him. In him. Okay.
Right.
Or with him.
Right.
Okay. So now, what was unusual about this particular Sidra is that usually the common language would be to say, "Go to Pharaoh."
Right.
Like Abraham would say, "Let God go for yourself."
Right. Right.
But in this instance only, when we get ready to go into the last 3 plagues, it would refer, in Malchus, in Hebrew.
Right.
And most people might be familiar with it when they say, your mother gonna give you a makkah, which is, a beating.
Right.
All right. So that's so when we talk about these 3 plagues that's coming up, both this time the Creator is assuring Moshe in this perspective that I'm ahead of you. Usually he's being sent to Pharaoh.
Right.
And when it had 7 plagues, the Pharaoh still haven't given up. So now, at this particular junction, the Creator said, come. So it's like saying I'm already there ahead of you.
Right.
Now, if we use just a homonym, not the spelling, but a homonym in a sense, for us both, then we could say that he also wanted him to get into Pharaoh, be able to understand Pharaoh, and speak deep into Pharaoh's heart. Now, we read from the beginning that the Creator said he will harden Pharaoh's heart. And usually the terms that's used, two of the terms I could find right away, that was the third one I was looking for, which is, from the word, kazak, and from the word,
Right.
kabed.
Right.
Those two terms.
Kazak meaning like strong, right?
Kazak meaning strong.
Right.
And kabed, and it's mostly you find the word kabed used more so in there a lot, which is, it means to harden, but it's the same source as a word for naked. And then I will get back to that, and if I forget, remind me.
Okay.
About the terminologies.
Right.
But I like to before I get into both, I like to go back a little bit and maybe try to fast forward up to this particular point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
We got time.
All right. Now, when we look at the opening of Shemot, it's a book of names, and then as a book of names, we don't get a lot of names right away. And then when it goes through the tribes, it goes to Reuben, it goes to Shimon, and it goes to Levi. And one of the things I find striking is that it mentions a man from the house of Levi marrying a daughter of Levi. And they had this son who gets a name by an Egyptian.
Right.
The stepmother, and her name is not known.
It's not known, right?
But the character name is known.
Right.
And only later we find out who Moshe's mother is, who his father is, and his pedigree. And that's important in itself.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that Moses, I guess, surrogate mother or adopted mother, better word, why was her name never mentioned, being that most people will look at it as if she did a good deed by not drowning the child, because that was the edict at the time, and she raised the child up, in a princely manner, in a fortunate way. And why don't you think that and Moses is accredited with writing the first 5 books, why do you think she's not mentioned?
Well, only rabbinic sources make a mention of a name that some tradition brings down. And when I usually talk to Israelites, I try to stick with what's in the book. And if I say it's a rabbinic source or commentary source, then that means that that's the only reference I have to support my point.
So in the rabbinic tradition, what do they say her name is?
I didn't think you was going to ask me that.
It's okay. We could bring it back.
But I forgot her name. But it's mentioned in rabbinic literature.
Okay.
Her name. And in rabbinic literature, they also say Moshe had several names as well.
Okay.
But I forgot offhand, because I figured I'm basically going to be talking to an Israelite audience.
Okay.
Much, so.
Okay.
And I didn't really focus on those areas that I can't support, because the first question is, where says that in the Tanakh?
Right.
And so I try to avoid some. And like I said, if I do bring up a commentary in reference to some commentary or a rabbinic tradition, then that's all I have. It's that commentary or the rabbinic tradition.
Okay.
But you won't see it, per se, in Tanakh. All right. But one of the things I like to bring out, since we were talking about the women.
Well, right here, what I found, I don't know if that was what you remember, Batia, something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah. I think it was the name. Yeah.
All right, go ahead. But, sorry to cut you.
But more important than her name, and more important where the midwives, they talk about the midwives before they mention their name.
Right.
In the beginning.
Right.
All right. So, and this is supposed to be a book of names.
A book of names.
In the beginning, in the first Sidra.
Right.
But what is so dynamic that most people tend to miss is that it was women that was the first rebels against the government that established rules.
Great point.
So I thought that was important to bring out, because a lot of times some people get the impression that we don't hold our women high amongst the Israelite community and endear, and precious in the Israelite community. But yet, it's through the women that, in salvation of the women, I mean, through the gut and virtues of these women that help aid us in our bondage.
Right.
And so, case in point, Moshe's mother, she just didn't throw him in the river. She made a ark, and the tabak is the same word that Noah used. For any time of Noah.
Right.
And she put them amongst the reeds, not in the river, per se, amongst the reeds. And the midwives, they had a national edict, and they went against the government. So
yes, they did.
The midwives is the first to go against the government. And then Moshe's mother went against the establishment.
Right.
And then, not only the mother, Pharaoh's daughter went against the edict that his father had put out. Her father had put out. So, talk about revolution and rebellion. The first time we read about a rebellion against, other than the Sodom and Gomorrah, episode in Genesis, is that for Israel, the beginning of our liberation and the beginning of some of our salvation act, the people that took an active role first were women.
Great point.
So now to move on a little bit further from the area, and I have to bring out some points here before I get to Bo, because Bo I'm going to be pretty brief, but being only 3 plagues, just mention that. But one of the things I like to bring out is that it's a reason you can always wonder, why would Moshe ask the Creator when he first made him at the bush, what's his name? But even before that, why his attention is drawn to a bush that's on fire?
Right.
Because you're going to see in the desert, in the region area, such as where he be at, in that area there, that you're going to have a lot of bush fires.
Absolutely.
So bush fire is not strange.
Right. It's not.
What is strange is that this was a self-existent fire, and that's what got his attention. Not that a bush was on fire, but that the bush was not consumed by the fire.
It was not consumed, right.
And the shepherd, he's used to seeing that.
Right.
And so when he turned around and they said the angel appeared in a fire in the bush, but it was not the angel that spoke to Moshe. It was the Creator.
It was the Creator, right.
And it makes it clear in that beginning. Now to get back to the point I want to bring before we move further on, and the reason I bring it out because the plagues that comes up in this particular Sidra bowl will come somewhat full circle to a degree. And that he asked, what is the Creator's name? Or what name should I tell him? And you said, well, you recognize it to be a God. You recognize it to be some supernatural being. And he said, not only I'm a God, I'm God of your father. He didn't even say fathers. So that means it's something you're familiar with. That he grew up knowing who he was, contrary to most movies might try to portray. And what is even more important is, why would we ask that? Why would we need to know that?
Right.
And one of the reasons that I'll give out is that is this contract that you made with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov still in effect? Because
Right.
if you're a different God,
Right.
if you ain't the same God, if you're a new God, then why are you talking about deliberating the people? So and my father told me about a God that's supposed to come and rescue us and bring us out. That story existed from the time the Creator revealed it to Abraham, passed down to Yitzchak, and passed down to Yaakov.
Right.
So now it's important to see if the contract is still in effect. But what the Creator, said, and he said, "I will be that I will be." Yea, sure, yea.
Right.
I will be that I will be.
Right.
Most books translate that I am that I am, but that sounds more like Popeye to me. So I like to say, I will be that I will be. Or it's the eternal one. And he gave him that. And then he goes on to say, but his memorials to God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
That's his memorial forever.
Forever.
That's an important point to know. So now when he goes goes down later on, we know he got the name, the tetragrammaton at the drama hit in the next Sidra. But Moses was given signs. Everybody know about the sign of the staff, the sign of the, water turning to blood, the sign of the hand, turning lepers.
Right.
But most people forget about the sign that God gave him was that I'm with you.
I'm with you.
That's the first sign.
Right.
And we don't pay attention to that word oath there, which means sign or banner.
Right.
In order for him to go to a leader of an empire without invitation and speak with him firsthand and walk away, that was a sign already.
That's right.
Yeah,
because most people wouldn't make it out the court.
right. But Moses wasn't satisfied with that particular sign, but that's what the first sign that God gave him.
Right.
Right. Now let's look even further. He told him that Pharaoh hard. We got, and I'm painting a platform about trying to set a stage.
Right.
Is that we normally say God hard and Pharaoh's heart.
Right.
All right. Then the morality is say, how can you expect a man to do something if you're forcing them not to do it?
Very good question. That's one of the questions that I had as we were sitting down discussing the portion.
Yes.
Because for most part, we learned that God was given free will to choose between, one thing or another. For most part, that's how we learn Torah. But with Pharaoh, this Pharaoh right here, the Most High God made an exception. He said that he would harden his heart. So he did not give him free will because he hardened his heart every time. So if Pharaoh had the thought, which he did, have the thought to let the people go, then he will harden his heart. So some of the questions that people will have is, then isn't God unjust because he didn't give Pharaoh a chance to repent per se or to right his wrong? What do you say about that?
Okay, I'd like to bring that up before I get a little bit into the Sidra.
Right.
Not only a lot of people have the problem, even some of the rabbis and stuff like that and sages that comment on it.
Right.
The thing is that I would like to bring out is that when all this says that God strengthened his heart, and then sometimes use the word kaved, we make it heavy. Now, when we look at a strengthening the heart, that means that this is what you want to do, but you might flip-flop here and there. I want to do it, but I change my mind. I want to do it, but I change my mind. I really don't. It's like when somebody say make up when you mad with the individual and say I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, because if you don't say I'm sorry, say say you're sorry. I don't really mean it. So, and we have an example of that later on in I think in the book of Kings, where it said a king kept all the commandments of God, but it was not in his heart. The next thing you know, he messed up.
Right.
So now, free will is important for anybody that believes in the Creator. Free will is important.
Right.
And if you're talking about a true and living God,
Right.
and you have free will.
Right.
All right. If we didn't have free will, and I got to stress this point, that if we didn't have free will, then that means that God couldn't bless us for doing good, and He couldn't curse us for doing bad.
Right. Right.
So we couldn't earn anything, and we shouldn't lose anything because we're doing according to how God designed us to be.
Absolutely.
So that makes the difference between we can excel and uplift ourselves, and we could lower ourselves. So now, when we talk about, sometimes you might read Pharaoh hard is hard, So you have examples of a man that didn't want to let the people go in the first place, didn't like the people in the first place, became a natural policy in the first place when he said, our only crime was we were successful.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to bring back just a little bit on the dreams of Joseph. And I'm just in the stage. I know I'm going to get in the boat, but I try not to be too long. So I'm going to lose sight of the Sidra. But when Pharaoh and Joseph time had the dream.
Right.
And he had two dreams in one night. Now, the first dream had cattle.
Right.
And then the weak cattle, the bad-looking cattle, ate up the healthy cattle.
Right.
Then the next dream, you have wheat, and the lean wheat, the bad blighted wheat, ate up the good wheat.
Right.
A lot of times, there's no ruler, no leader, and I'm just using the difference in that, because there's more than one, angle to view a dream. He also gave the Pharaoh the interpretation of the dream. But, and I just, I had to bring this out in the sense that Pharaoh knew the interpretation. He just forgot the interpretation and only remembered the dream.
Right.
And it's in Genesis. All right.
Okay.
But no ruler that could be a despot or a dictator in power want to see a weak person take over.
Right. Right.
So the rules in the beginning was that the people are stronger and mightier than us. Let's deal with them wisely. And we so strong and we so mighty, then we can't see it.
Good.
And not even employing it. So if we was that great, and Pharaoh used a policy, undercover policy, try to make it seem like, haven't died, while they're on the stools, and then he made a national policy on it.
Right.
Let's go further. All right, now, when Moshe was supposed to go to the council, the elders, and all of them go for their liberation, they all didn't go there, just Moses, but they went there to complain about the work.
Right.
Now, to show you the mentality, and I got to draw the hardness and the mentality of Pharaoh's heart. And Moses was given a job that they said they ain't going to work the first time.
Right.
And since we're talking about the plagues, through a God that a creator that created heavens and earth, do he need any plague to rescue his people?
No.
I mean, that's for anybody, pretty much no.
Right.
The creator don't need any plague to make you beat you down with and then bring your people out. He just bring it out. Because he created the world from nothing.
Right.
So this is a lesson plan for not only Pharaoh but for the world. And so and I'm going to bring out some of those points and improve and support my position on those points from Scripture. All right. So when we look at the Pharaoh himself at this time, coming up to do something to the people. What is ironic is that when he increased the workload on the Israelites,
right,
and said, "Look, you got so much time in your hand. And we got to look at a social condition, too. You don't want a lot of people sitting around doing nothing.
Right.
You got so much time on your hand to worship. And it's an opportunity, and to be able to worship this creator or worship any kind of deity, you got to have some leisure time. So what Pharaoh did, not only to show you his mentality, that he made it hard on the Israelites to get their own straw, but he also made it hard on his own people because they still had to come up with the tally.
Right.
See, most people just think of the Israelites' position that we had to go to fields and come up with the same quota of bricks.
Yeah, but the taskmaster had to make sure that the tally.
Well, the taskmasters, when we talk about, the Israelites over to this day, they was getting beat.
Right.
It's the Egyptians still coming up short.
Right.
Because we had our own people over us.
Right.
Immediate over us when we look at the scripture carefully. But the Egyptians are responsible saying, look, I got to have this many bricks.
Right. So they distressed also.
So now, sometimes some people hurt themselves. So from the very beginning, when he made them work harder, it showed you that his mentality, the kind of heart he had, that he became reckless, that even he caused his own people to suffer.
Right.
And it hurt him.
Right. Never looked at it that way.
So we move further on into the saga of the plagues. I'd like to talk about the contest with Aharon and magicians.
Right.
And I was sharing this with a couple of people a while back. The difference between miracles and the magics, the magicians, is that a magician looks at his audience as inferior to them, less intelligent than them.
Okay.
And they say to themselves, I'm going to amaze them, but I'm not amazing myself because definitely they too dumb. They don't realize what I'm doing. Whereas a guy that works a miracle, not only he amazed the people, but he amazed himself. So, I didn't know this was going to work out like that, even though I was told it would.
Right.
So Aharon was doing the signs of the Creator at the contest with the magicians of Pharaoh. And yet, he's amazed. And the people are amazed. But the Egyptians doing there with their light enchantments, they're not amazed. They want everybody else to be amazed.
Right.
So they look at, so when you go to a magic show or see an illusionist, he said, look, I make my money by entertaining you because I'm smarter than you.
Right.
And most people don't look at it like that.
Right.
But that's the difference between a magician in the court of Pharaoh and one that's working a miracle and signs from the Creator.
Okay.
But all right, now we go even further with that. After the third plague, with lights, and the magicians couldn't do that. What's ironic is that they said this is Esba Elohim, the finger of God.
Right.
But if the Egyptians could recognize this is the finger of God, not know, well, that just happened.
Right.
And we're just a little slack. They then lost that. Why couldn't the Israelite people acknowledge that?
Very
God's
good
working
point.
on their behalf.
Right.
So these are some things that you say, well, I can understand why the first three plagues hit all of us.
Right.
Because we need this God to acknowledge, not just Pharaoh on the throne.
Right.
And the people, they said earlier that they believe in Moses and the sign that God sent them. But yet, they didn't have enough faith in the Creator. So let's go on about the other plagues. So now, I skipped. I should have focused on the second plague a minute before I move on. I just wanted to bring out the point about the magicians and stuff.
Okay.
But the second plague with the frogs.
Right.
And I think it's an important point because when we talk about the hardening of Pharaoh's heart and how he is, when he told Moses to get rid of the plague, and Moses said, well, look, you tell me when you want to get rid of the frogs. He said, tomorrow. Now, how hard could a man be? when he said tomorrow, if I got a
Yeah.
problem today, I want it over with
Right.
today.
Right.
And I don't want it over with tomorrow. When you ask me when I want to get rid of it, I want to get rid of it now.
Right.
So and I had to bring a point out to show you the character of the guy that's on the throne of Egypt.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because it's frogs are slimy, and there's a lot of things going on with frogs.
and it said
You
in the
want to get
houses
rid
and
of that
everywhere.
problem ASAP. You're right.
So in the houses and everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they bad.
They
You
need
know,
neutralize
somebody had them in the
everything.
stomach eating, because they're small enough, might ate them in the stomach, whatever the case is.
Right. Right.
And he said, I want them gone tomorrow. So that's that's the kind of man that we was up against.
Right. Right.
So now when we read further about jumping to the boat with the plagues, the next three plagues, and I just want to focus on the next three plagues pretty much.
Right.
We're talking, starting off with the locusts, because God said I would bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. Who is God? Because Pharaoh, when they first said earlier,
Right.
in Exodus the 5th chapter, second verse, who is God that should listen to his voice? That's arrogant.
Right.
That should listen to his voice. And when we go further down, and it talks about the different plagues, that it had, with the hail and stuff. One of the things I like to bring out is that Pharaoh himself was want to get rid of a people, don't like the people,
Mm-hmm.
and yet keep the people to his own hurt. And that's what it is about having a hard heart. You say, well, this is really what I made up. This is what I really want to do. When we look at the ninth chapter, Exodus 14th verse says, so that you may know that there's none like me in all the earth. When it came with the plague of hell, that's the plague of hell. So you would know there's none like me in all the earth.
Right.
And then it said my name will be declared in all the earth. That's for everybody. So a lot of times, we as Israelites, not only we supposed to know God and know about His Creator, know about His great King, the Creator Himself.
Right.
But also that everyone on the planet and the earth is supposed to know of Him. Not saying everyone will serve Him, but everyone should know of Him.
Should know of Him. Right.
And so the purpose of the plagues was not just to give the Egyptians and pharaohs a hard time. Not only just to attack their gods and bring a judgment upon the gods, which is mentioned in this particular Sidra above, but also that God, the Creator, will be declared. His name will be declared throughout the whole earth.
Right.
All right. Now, another thing I'd like to bring out, too, is what make Pharaoh kind of hard. And this is the point, before we deal with the thing above with the plagues itself, the last three plagues. Like I said, I'm going to be brief, and we'll be open for questions.
Okay.
When we look at let me see, where should I start? Yeah. All right. Well, when we deal with the area of both and the last place, we talk about locusts, and we talk about darkness, and then we talk about the death of the firstborn.
Right.
All right. The Creator was merciful because in the beginning, before He hit him with any plague, He said, "This is my son, he my firstborn. If you let my son go, I will slay your firstborn."
Right.
So the Creator held that back. The Creator even told him that I kept you alive so you could give testimony to me. So now when we look at Pharaoh himself in his demeanor of the plagues of the locusts. One of the things about locusts is that they eat everything in its path. We read about locusts in the book of Joel.
Right.
You know, and so much so because of because of our sins, we got the locusts in Joel.
Right.
But it said, but in the redemption in the latter days, that the Creator will restore all that the locusts are eating. And so the plague of locusts was down there, never seen in Egypt before. That's what Pharaoh had to go through at that time. Now, I like to focus on Pharaoh himself as an individual with kabed, the word heart.
Right.
They had a religion in Egypt called, with the negative confessions of Ma'at.
Right.
Right. And one of the things that a young brother has shared with me, and I kind of like it, is that his negative confessions that I didn't do this, I haven't done that to an individual, I haven't killed anyone, I haven't destroyed one. When Pharaoh break those rules there, before the Exodus, we don't see any area in the Tanakh and where it shows where anybody could repent and God approve it.
Okay.
The first time, so Pharaoh himself, knowing that I done broke my laws, understandings that I go by, the negative confessions of my eyes, and yet there's no way I can atone for that. And before we dealt with the sin of the golden calf, and that's later on in our history after the rescue, but I have to just bring that point out.
Right.
Is that before that, all people that had any kind of religion, any kind of ideology, all the gods they worship, there's not one of them in any of their religions that could say that God is merciful and will forgive them if they just ask for it. That didn't exist. There's always, I got to appease the gods. I got to, hopefully bribe the gods.
Right.
That was most ancient religions.
Right.
There was no such thing with mercy be shown.
Right.
We find that out only in Exodus around, I think, 33rd chapter, where Moshe went up there to plead after the sin of the golden calf.
Right.
That's the first time you read where the Lord, Adonai,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
merciful, long suffering.
Yeah. Right. But before that, and nowhere in the Tanakh that I could think of offhand that you read that quality being emulated from the Creator in relationship to anybody else.
Right.
Before that time, the sin of the golden calf.
Right.
Because in all ancient religions, that people had, other than talking about the true and living God, that concept couldn't exist.
Right.
So Pharaoh himself, when it's the heart in his heart, he's living by a concept that nobody in the world of his time know about, a God that's able to forgive people.
Right.
That don't work.
That doesn't work. Right.
And I ain't gonna give up something. And when you talk about a sacrifice, it's giving up what you could use for most heathens. But for Israelites, when we give a sacrifice, we give it because we have it to give.
Right.
Not because of what we're going to get.
Right.
We give to the Lord because we have, and we give it to Him. Not necessarily to get anything back.
Right.
So
that's why it says later the willing heart.
Yeah, and the love that should forgive us.
Right.
Because you have it to give. Okay. All right. So now let's pick up where we should be at.
Right. Well, before you go there, I got a question about the locusts, right?
Okay.
It says in Shemot in Exodus chapter 10, verse 14. It reads, "And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and rested in all the borders of Egypt. Why the reason for the redundancy? Right? Because it
Before,
says, and the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt and rested. Now it says, and rested in all the borders of Egypt. If it's already over all the land of Egypt, isn't it all the borders of Egypt already?
yes, but it said that they wouldn't trespass because the locusts only dealt with the part of Egypt, and that not opposed to the part of Goshen, and also other lands. One of the things about the plagues and the way the Creator dealt with Egypt
Right.
was while He throwing these plagues on, no other nation attacked Egypt.
Mm.
You know, so and so that means that and Egypt wasn't say at peace with everybody because they're
Right.
always talking about they might join. But the biggest issue from the beginning was they might join our enemies.
Okay.
So that means that Egyptians really realized that they might have a threat coming from the north.
Right.
Goshen was actually towards the north
Right.
of Egypt. And,
Right.
so they had this fear of being invaded.
Right.
But it was invaded. Like I think Chief Abdiel brought out well before, that it was invaded
Right.
several times.
Right.
So when the Creator hit them with the plague, He didn't allow no one else to interfere. There was no land grab. There was nothing.
Right.
And it shows that it's the will of God. How are you going to tell the insect don't cross this line?
Mm. Right.
Stop right here.
Right.
And leave when I tell you to leave.
Right.
End it when I tell you to end it.
Right.
So that's one of the miracles that most that when you enter a situation, sometimes you don't see the situation you're in.
Okay.
Right. So and then when you get to the plague of darkness, that this I'm gonna give you a sort of like a commentary, rabbinic commentary.
Right.
In this area. All right. One, 3 days of darkness, and they say 3 days of darkness. Why would it be 3 days only of darkness in a sense? Well, they say the 3 days darkness is actually 6 days, and because it normally would get dark at night,
Right.
and if you're talking about a whole day, you're talking about evening and morning darkness where you don't even see the moons or the stars.
Mm. Mm.
So now, if it's really dark, the darkness at night you can understand, but you can't understand a darkness in daytime. And if it's the thick darkness, even at night. So one they would say 6 days. Some people say it's just that even at night you couldn't even see the moon or the stars.
Right.
So can you look up? So it's thick darkness you could feel. There's another comment, rabbinic tradition, not true, but just give you some idea.
Right.
That though Adam was created, with intelligence, the thing is that the first time it became night, he was afraid.
Mm.
So therefore, the Creator had enlightened him and shown him how to create fire.
Mm.
That's one of the mysteries, how the man knows fire.
Yeah, I
Right,
I also read somewhere where it said that the darkness was so intense that if you were standing up, you wouldn't know where to sit down. You couldn't tell how to sit down, and if you were sitting down, you wouldn't be able to get up. I mean, those are commentaries. That's not
all right, but you can accept some things in the area. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna give you an example of modern day
right.
darkness. That's dangerous even. When you go into a building that's smoke filled and no lights is on, you lose your way. A lot of people die close by the door.
Right.
Because they can't find the door in the smoke filled area, so they become disorientated.
Right.
And that's a tourism recently trained in fire evacuation and transit on a regular every year. And when you're in a dark area, you really can't. And you walked in knowing the way, and it's a guy standing there to help guide you out. Because when they spin you around, you cannot find your way out, and you're not blindfolded. It's just a dark and smoke. Then just smoke.
Right.
And not poisonous smoke.
Right.
And that's how a lot of people, and they say a lot of people died at the door. So imagine that kind of darkness there.
Right.
And now, what's even more so, if you are Ethiopian, and you look over there and you see that dark spot over there, you won't go over there.
Mm.
And also, it defines the territorial limits of what is considered Mitzrayim.
Okay.
Where every plague, it defines the territorial limits of what is Mitzrayim, what actually belongs there to that people.
Right.
All right. Now, to move up even further with the last one that was given, the death of the firstborn and Passover. What's important in this particular Sidra boat that we tend to overlook is that we get our first law of observance that we don't pay much attention to, and that's the Rosh Chodesh.
Okay.
New moon.
New moon, right.
All right. When they say this will be a beginning of month for us, and it's a Rosh Chodesh in that sense.
Right.
And it tells what we do and what we prepare for when we get to the 10th day of that particular month. So when we think about the 10 plagues, it didn't happen, in 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
It took an extensive period of time. Basically, most people calculate it as, within a year's period.
Okay.
All right. So now, so when we look at to the beginning of the month of Rosh Chodesh, we now was told to observe that, and I recognized that before we was even recognized and observe Pesach or Shabbat.
Right.
And so one of the areas, and I'm only going to pause there just for a moment and bring out some points that I'm sure I should get some questions later on this area here, is that when we talk about the Rosh Chodesh,
right,
we understand what it is for an individual to say, well, we're going to sanctify this rock, this building, or even this table.
Right.
All right. Or I'm going to sanctify myself.
Right.
What are we talking about? Objects.
Right.
Objects. That's a concept we understand. I'm not going to just dedicate it for that. Just only dedicate for that.
Right.
So we only have a concept of objects. But how do we sanctify time?
Good question.
Something that we can't touch.
Right.
And that's usually one of the mysteries that they say, well, even with the people that have this debate on the calendar about when is the new moon, when is the new month, and when is the Rosh Chodesh, what's the new moon.
Right.
All right. Moshe had to be shown, being he got word by all pay, mouth to mouth, by mouth, orally,
right,
from the Creator, not through dreams. He had to see, and how we know he had to see certain things in this particular form, because even when it came to the Mishkan, he said, you should build it after the pattern that you saw on the mount.
Okay.
These are things that's written in the Tanakh.
Right.
So that means that Bezalel and Aholiab had to create something that they never saw from what Moshe telling them.
Right.
Because he didn't come down with a blueprint.
Right.
So when we look at the sanctification of the moon, the month, then when, how, what would be the right proper time? And we know, basically, between new moon phases, 29 and a half days.
Right.
But I'm not going to focus on that now. But it's just that's the first thing we was told and it said for us. So now, when we talk about that, it means that we calculate from our redemption, which is Pesach, our sanctification, which is Shavuot, to our rededication, which is in Sukkot.
Right.
And that's usually, so we're talking about, the first month for, according to our ecclesiastical years, to use lack of a better word.
Right.
And which means more like for lack of a better word, religious
Right.
calendar.
I understand.
And
Definitely.
and then we have a civil calendar, because now time doesn't start once there.
Right.
And one of the things I like to always bring out when we talk about the month, because I'm on it, because that's the first thing you talk about before you talk about pulling the lamb on the side, is that our sabbatical year only begins in what we call from our ecclesiastical calendar in the 7th month. But you only count the years in the 7th month. So the sabbatical year starts, instead of even, what's even unique, they don't even start on Rosh Chodesh of the 7th month, which is the 7th. It starts on the 10th, similar to that of the Pesach, similar to that when Yahshua entered the land. But so maybe some people might ask me some things to that. The Rosh Chodesh itself, which is important, and it says, I use the word later on in the book of the appointed times. We're supposed to call it out.
Right.
That means that we have the authority to say it's Rosh Chodesh. It's called the appointed times of God, and they say we shall. In English, we say declare, but the word is to call it out.
To call it out, right?
That leaves it on us to recognize it and call it out,
right?
And have it in the particular seasons,
right?
I'm just throwing these little things out there for when people talk about the adjustments here and adjustments there, because if you go by a strictly lunar year, even with the halves, you're talking about 11 days or 10 days short of a solar year.
Right.
All right. Now, when we get to the Pesach itself, it's the first time in anybody ideology in the Sidra boat that you're going to have a creator rescuing its people. Everybody else has people attributing their salvation to a creator that haven't even did anything for them.
Okay.
And that's and how we know there's a big difference, because the creator didn't even allow the angels to slay the Egyptians.
Okay.
On that night, he said, "I will pass through the land of Egypt."
I have a question. I have a question about the Passover lamb, right? So now when we see the commands for eating the Passover lamb, it says that all males must be circumcised, right? And if the stranger that dwells in the midst of you, he partakes of it, he also has to be circumcised. Am I correct?
Oh, correct.
All right. So now when we get into the wilderness, there was like wholesale circumcision. There was like a circumcision, like everybody had to get circumcised. So was the first Passover lamb, were the people permitted to be uncircumcised to partake of it because of the situation?
Okay. Now, and I'm glad you asked that question. It's something I'm going to address that question. If I take too long, let me know.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
All right. One, the Passover meal, Seder,
right,
and which means water. All right. That was we the only people in the world that invited would allow and invite a stranger to take if you want to.
Right.
You just got to be circumcised.
Right.
All right. And we had to be circumcised. So that command was not only given for a stranger, and you figure why it said everyone that eats of it should be circumcised. And you're talking to Israelites first, and then
Right.
talking about inviting a stranger later.
Right.
Right? Because contrary to what most people would believe, out of the years that we stayed in Egypt, some of us might have slacked off,
Right.
From circumcising. And that's something that most people don't like to bring out, is that we was told to be circumcised to eat it, and they're telling us first. And then if a stranger wants to keep the Passover, he must be circumcised.
Right.
So over the time that was in Egypt, some of us evidently didn't keep the covenant of Abraham.
Okay.
That brings a whole nother light out.
Okay.
All right. And most people, we tend to say, oh, Israelites circumcised. Even today, all Israelites are circumcised to claim to be Israelites.
Right.
So, and they keep Shabbat and everything else to just be slow about doing that part.
Right.
So now, and I like pretty much Chief Abdel's explanation on the circumcision when he spoke on Sidra.
Okay.
So now when we talk about the Creator rescuing us on that day and we being circumcised on that day, we invited people in that day. The blood on the doorpost, which is became actually our altar at that particular time. All right, that was for the Creator to see, and he said, we're not suffer the destroyer or the plague to coming at us. All right, so now that let us know indirectly only the Creator can forgive and condemn. Only God. And that ain't greater. Because he said, I'm gonna look.
Right.
And when I see it, then I will not let the plague or the suffer or the come in and destroy Israelites.
Right.
On their house. But personally, I'm gonna kill all the firstborn of Egypt. That's another thing I like to bring out that most people tend to not think about much. And that's for the firstborn. What's one of the strong miracles that we don't think of much? Is that at that time, everybody in the land of Egypt that was not, that wasn't Egyptian, they had a firstborn male. Most people say, how you know that?
Right.
And I would say simply from when God said, all firstborn males is mine. And then of the cattle, all firstborn, the cattle, that's a different thing. Right. But when it comes to men, he makes specific when he say males.
Okay.
So much so that we had the redemptions, the Yun, as far as the redemption that's paid.
Right.
So that's a phenomenon in itself. How do everybody in the whole nation of a country have a firstborn male in their household? And if you destroy the firstborn male in every household, that's a serious decimation that no war could really get. And cripple a nation will still keep them alive.
Right.
So, those are some of the miracles we don't look at. With the Pesach, not only God going through and destroying us, and the Creator know everybody had a firstborn male, and everybody else was able to mourn. They said from the Pharaoh upon his throne in the dungeons. Now, another thing most people don't realize is that though Egyptians looked at us as being beneath them, we think about only Pharaoh. But even the slave Egyptians thought of us as being beneath them. That's why I said Pharaoh and his servants.
Wow.
So when we talk about racism and the way they look at us as beneath them or third world countries, then you say, well, okay, that even a servant of a leader might say, hey, I'm better than them. And I'm a servant too, but I'm a slave too, but I'm a better slave than that slave. I'm a better master slave. It's almost like the white indentured servants.
At least I'm not them.
Yeah. So and so, this we read when we talk about the Exodus story that most people bring out and point to. All right. Now, finally, when we get ready to leave out, one thing I like to bring out too about Pharaoh. That's what I meant to bring earlier about one particular plague. Let me see if I can find it right quick. And I think it's some linguistics that's being used here. Let me see. All right, 9. Let me see. Yeah, 9:20, 9:27. Let me see if I just get that chapter a second. 9:27. I was sharing this a while back when I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I think it's important to know that, certain details. Let's see. Okay. All right, and in English it says, and Pharaoh sent and called for Moses, and this I'm reading from 9:27.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and I and my people is wicked. Now, all right, this is during the time of the of the hell.
Right.
In 9th chapter. All right. Now I'm gonna read it again differently. I'm not gonna change the word, but I'm gonna bring out certain points in the language because we see it in English and we see how the word is. But I'm gonna read it back in English, so I'm gonna change the emphasis.
Right.
All right. And then give it another interpretation. Said, okay. Said, and Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, all right, I have sinned this time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 1. Let's mark it there this time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The Lord is righteous and I. And my people is wicked. Are wicked. So now when I change it, said, how do I sin this time? By letting my people get that. I'm listening to my people. Like saying, the Lord is righteous and I.
And I, right.
So he equates himself with God.
With God, right. Puts himself on the same level, right.
Yeah.
I just picked that up, right.
And my people are wicked.
And my people are wicked, right.
Right. So he
not me, my people. Not me, my people.
Yeah, I'd have cut him loose. I'd have cut him loose, man, after this. You know what I mean? But right. But it's the people, because Pharaoh sent anybody else to do the work.
Right.
He sent them off to do the work. But only, near the end, then he talked about, he himself, is included. So we get ready to leave.
Right.
And only then. But I like to bring that out. Now, that's from the plague of hell. So to show you what kind of individual we're dealing with.
We're dealing with, right.
A certain word game. And a lot of people tend to pass that by, and I was sharing that when I was in Georgia, simply because we got commas and stuff like that, period. But it had quite a few conjunctions.
Right.
And. Okay. So that's so after that I like to also bring out some things that happened Memorial of the Passover. So that means I'm gonna highlight some things like the Memorial of the Passover.
Right.
It's that some people don't like to observe the day. We observe the day. We can't talk about having that the actual sacrifice.
Right.
Amongst most Jewish communities, they don't even eat lamb that day, and some of them rule in the have a custom where they don't eat lamb, and it's forbidden for them to eat lamb that day.
Right.
Now, but they might have some beef, and what's happened here in the first Passover, what's different is that it says of the sheep or of the goat, we can sacrifice the Lord Pesach, a lamb, and then if you have the sheep or the goat, we get them the rules for that.
Right.
Now, when we get 40 years later, to show you the change that Moshe brings about. And plus, we had that matzah and bitter herbs, you know. All right, and I was speaking to a young man earlier today too about that. And it said the staff in your hand, shoes on your feet. All right, because we're getting ready to go somewhere.
Right.
That Passover, we knew we was going.
Right.
And we was prepared and said, eat it in haste. Right? That was the tradition. I mean, that was a command, not so much even a tradition. That was the command for that Passover. Now, some people still do it today, might, have their luggage ready and stuff like that, and
right.
and some circles, and ready to go, fully
right.
dressed and ready to go, and eat the meal. Just to, act like it's going to, happen now and during that particular time. But we know right then and there they was leaving for sure. And it's the only time when it came to that particular plague, the 10th plague, that the Creator gave Moshe a time that they're going to exodus out.
Right.
All the other plagues, he didn't say he's going to let them go then. He only told them this time that he's going to let them go.
Right.
Also, I like to bring out points that the Creator warned Pharaoh twice. In the third plague, he just bring it on. And when he gets down to the, fourth, fifth, he warns them. Sixth plague, he bring it on. All right, get down to 7, warn. 8, warn.
Right.
9, you know what I mean? Like that. So, so you know what I mean? So, he bring it on the 9th plague. The 10th plague, it's a whole nother story.
Right.
All right? So it's already known.
Right.
So now, so that was the pattern. After the Creator give you twice the 2 warnings, then next thing you know, you just bring it on. Bam!
Right.
And that's important to realize that when people talk about 3 strikes, you're out.
Right.
So, all right. So, what's so grand about this here? When we look at the Passover, when we read about Moses in the 16th chapter of Deuteronomy about the observance of the Passover.
The Pesach, right.
Right. We read where you not only could have lamb for the sacrifice or a goat for the sacrifice, but you could have beef for the sacrifice, which is a difference. So when people talk about should we eat lamb on Passover, and if you ate beef on Passover, in Deuteronomy the 16th chapter says take it from the flock or the herd. Flocks is lambs and sheep.
Right.
Herd is cattle.
Right, cattle. Mostly like bovine animals, right.
Right, so that's mentioned in Deuteronomy.
Okay, great point. We gotta look. Yeah, you're right. Flocks is sheep and goats and the
right.
herd is the beef, the cattle, right.
Right, and Moshe said you could take it from either one of those. Beef is bigger, so now you ain't got that much time to waste that much meat. But there come a time you're going to have enough people where you can serve that up. Okay. And that's why it's mentioned in Deuteronomy. So now, the Passover becomes a statute forever, the observance of the date. The way of observing it will change.
Okay.
That's why I talk about a memorial of it and not the actual thing.
Right.
All right. So now one more point just to conclude. I'm skipping around a little bit. It's certain customs that people do with the redemption of the firstborn, because that's when they were sanctified. Today in Israel, you get 5 silver shekels. You actually buy it. They make the shekels out of pure silver. And they're supposed to be equivalent to the time, and they give it to them. Then they have this other thing here, where you'll find in certain rabbinic circles. I like to get it there for most people are tired to feel it. in rabbinic circles. Not that it's command, but they base it on this here in this particular Sidra. And I'm going to the 13th chapter of Exodus, the 9th verse. All right, so
repeat that chapter.
All right, the 13th chapter of Exodus, the 9th verse.
13:9.
All right. All right, and this was to share, you know, after they talk about the memorial of the Passover, all right, and why, you know, why people sometimes would tie what they call a little black strap in the box on their head and all that stuff. Not that it's command for you to do it; they base it on that because certain customs come later on.
Right.
All right, and I figure I like to share it with some people that actually do that. That's, you know, say they're Israelite. I mean, that are Israelites that do it. I may not happen to know where they first try to base it on a certain custom. Because you know they didn't wear that stuff back then. And you know that Jeremiah and all of them didn't actually wear that kind of stuff then.
Mm.
So you know we had to start somewhere much later after that, after the return, somewhere.
Okay.
All right. But it's based on this just for, you know, people to say. The 9th verse says,
and it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thy
right.
hand, and for a memorial between thine eyes, that the Lord may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand hath the Lord brought thee out of Egypt.
That's all right there. Now, what they do is actually tied on, and they talk about three things, you know. They usually talk about, you know, they talk about the head,
right,
all right, the heart,
right,
and hand, okay?
Right.
All right, the head is supposed to be for thoughts. So that's why they have that little box on the head. The heart is your feelings, and it's always on the left side, too. And your hands is for your actions to serve God. And so that's where they base time feeling on. But also, I like to bring out the four terms of salvation with the Passover. When God says, first of all, He said, the first part it said, Hosea, all right, I will bring you out.
Right.
But actually, Hosea means, and you will go out.
You will go out.
Okay.
Right.
Of course, I will cause you to go out.
Right.
All right, and His sovereignty, I will save you. So part of salvation. All right, and it's always talking about what from, either from bringing you out of Egypt, you know, saving you for the burdens of the Egyptians, you know, go out, go out. All right, that means that I will redeem you, redemption.
Right.
And laquati, that means I would take you for people to myself. Now the fifth one, then you have big pause on, and you find that in Exodus, the 6th chapter at the beginning when He told Moshe to tell him.
Right.
All right, you know, Hibiki, you know, and I will bring you up to the land which I swore to your fathers. And I lift my hand, you know, and I lift up my hand and swore to your fathers. That means that the Creator said, I pledge by myself, but raise my hand. A lot of times we read in prophecy, it says, I swore by myself.
I swore by myself, right.
All right. I swore by my name. So now the Creator swear by His name. That's one thing. All right. That would, you know, you would think of a name and say, okay, that identifies it and points out an individual.
Right.
But when a guy lifts up his hands, that's physical declaration.
Okay.
So it tell you right there, you know, when they talk about I'm gonna bring you into the land, I lift up my hands.
Right.
You know, so what's so important about that? You know, when we go back, you know, to Exodus the 6th chapter and think about that, when they told Moses to bring it in, that first generation didn't go into the land.
Absolutely.
So there's a big gap between going into the land and all the other stuff that happened.
Right.
Well, the next generation that was not born in Egypt, they went to the land. And so now get back to one question I think you mentioned earlier, or had hinted at, is that about the circumcision, did they, you know, I think he was trying to allude to They had to circumcise themselves, for the next Passover that they dealt in the wilderness. All right. Well, we know, and this is what I used to teach. I can't support it no more than, but it's hard to disprove on the other end as well.
Okay.
As that, it said in Joshua time, all those that were born in Egypt
were
circumcised, but those born in the wilderness was not.
Okay.
All right. So that means that they had built the Mishkan 1 year afterwards. For some reason, if they had any children, there wasn't no male children being born within that first year.
Okay.
Because, because circumcision, they would have been circumcised already.
Right.
And, in order to deserve that one Passover that's mentioned in the wilderness.
In the wilderness, right.
Which is 14 days after those guys offer up their offering. Okay. And then 2 days later, was Pesach. And that's the only Pesach that's mentioned in the Tanakh that they observed. And they instituted, at that time, a second Pesach Sheni.
Okay.
All right, so I'm pretty much done with that. I think I talked long enough.
Oh, definitely.
So here's the question.
That was definitely excellent. Got reactions from the people. They liked it. To everyone here, don't forget to like the channel, to subscribe, to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you would like to help us out in any way, you know how to do it with the super chat button. You can help us out that way. And also, if you look in the descriptions, there's other ways through PayPal and all of that. So, thanking Nasik Zurishaddai for this time. If anyone has any questions, I'll give you a little time. I have a question here.
Okay.
In regards to taking the meat outside, when we read in Exodus 12:46 says, "It must be eaten in one house. Do not remove any of the meat from the house to the outside, and you shall not break a bone in it." So in regard to taking the meat outside, why is the violation set in the singular, lo totsi, and the violation of breaking the bone in the plural, lo tishberu?
Okay. One. He had it said a lamb for the household. The house too little. You have one joint on.
Right.
All right. And it's actually your house became the first sanctuary that we had as Israelites, in a strange land. That's why the Creator told us to put the blood open the two disciples. What the priest do, he sprinkled the blood.
Okay.
All right. So that's one. Now, when it says not to break a bone, some people when you eat, what it means that when you roast it, you ain't just cutting in chops.
Right.
That's what it means, because if you eat and you eat, all right, and everybody got to get a portion. So you ain't just trimming, I mean, see, like say, just for a picture, trying to draw a picture. You drop an animal inside of a cage in a pool full of piranhas, and then you pull out just a skeleton, or you throw them in a bad action to bring out the bones.
Okay.
Right? You're not just trimming the meat off like that. It means that when you roast in a sense, you got you roast the pole and you're not supposed to break a bone there. You don't cut it up and say, look here, I want to cut this one off and cut that one off, put the leg over here, leg over there. Nah. So when you're roasting the whole, but when you're serving it, you're gonna have to break it off.
All right. So I have another. Just to see where you stand on this, I read somewhere where Rashi said that even if the Egyptian household didn't have a firstborn, meaning like the firstborn might have died, before the plague came by, or whatever circumstances, the firstborn was not there. He said that even if the house didn't have a firstborn, that the eldest son in the house perish. Do you think that that's true?
Well, if the eldest son in the house, and what makes him the eldest? I mean, not just because that the firstborn left off or something like that there.
Right.
The eldest means that he actually should have been the firstborn, not just because he's older than everybody else. I don't understand. You might have 3 sons, one take off and die. And so, and case in point, Yehudah, when he lost his 2 sons, and Elnam.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Shelah would be the oldest son. All right. But he's not the firstborn son. The miracles, and that's what makes this grand and miracles. See, Rashi being a Frenchman, in their commentary on the Bible and scriptures and stuff like that, there, when you study Rashi, you find out that he would write back and forth to find out what is the writing in the other people's script in the Tanakh.
Right.
All right. So, those that want to accept that, that's them. I have a problem with it because I think the Creator will make sure he gets full measurement on everything.
Okay.
And so just measures, his delight.
So I got a couple more. Someone about Yisrael online said, please, there were other. I have a question, please. There were other people who live amongst the Hebrews, Nubians, Hamites, etc. Were those male children firstborn passed over also? Told in advance.
I didn't get it clear. Come back with that.
All right. It says, I have a question, please. There were other people who lived amongst the Hebrews,
okay.
Nubians, Hamites, etc.
Okay.
Were those male children firstborn passed over also? Told in advance, meaning like passed over, like.
Okay, now, the war was against the Egyptians.
Right.
That was the war. And it says Pharaoh and his people. Very explicit.
Right.
And we know we had strangers because the strangers was invited to that Passover, that first Passover.
Right.
We know we left out with a mixed multitude.
Right.
So now, the war wasn't against the Ethiopians. The war wasn't against anybody else. It was against all the Egyptians where it was promised the death of the firstborn. So, the Creator don't make any mistakes. We do.
But then my question would be, the children of Israel were commanded to put the blood on the doorpost, on the lintel and on the doorpost. Did that go for all the strangers that were in the midst of Egypt also? Or the angel of death will come and visit them also, even if they didn't take of because I could imagine that not everybody went with Israel, not all the strangers that were there.
No. I agree. I agree. We're not talking citizenship now.
Right.
We're talking about and that dispensation of Israelites being in Egypt, in Egypt at that time.
Right.
All right. So now, if it was down to Ethiopian, a Bantu, wherever it was, Sumerian, Chaldean, whatever the case was, right? All right, it says, from Pharaoh's house to that citizens, so he that citizens on to those that's in the dungeon. That is Egyptian,
right.
And it tell you the cry amongst the Egyptians, not the cry amongst, just people of the land in general. That would be inclusive. You just say, if you're talking about the people of the land in general.
Right.
So, and the ones that was in authority is the ones that they had the problem. Like I said, now, even a servant thought they was better than Israelites. Whether it was a Bantu, Egyptian, but most times it was the Egyptians.
Right.
Right. And the war, and the thing was against Pharaoh and the Egyptian people.
Right.
And that's what the decree was going after. So, me, I might not, that helped me segue into another area. just use somebody might use Rashi and other stuff.
Right.
But when we did get the manna, about 30 days after, we was in the wilderness, and it said every man got a omer according to his eating.
Right.
One of the miracles I like to bring out that most people don't see right away is that every man got a omer according to his eating, and according to his household.
Right.
And so all those who gathered more, and all those who gathered more only had this, and those who gathered less had the same amount per man or per person in their household.
Right.
Now, what is the what you say, the lie detector test is that if I got 5 people in my household, and it's supposed to be my household, I'm thinking it's my household,
right,
and I only got enough homer for 4 people, that measurement,
right,
then somebody don't belong there.
Right.
Because I tell you that those that gathered more wind up with with no lack. They had the exact same amount.
Okay. So it says every firstborn of the Egyptian, but let's say there was an Egyptian that was a firstborn that was so happened to be at an Israelite's house that had the blood over the doorpost and the lintel. Would that Egyptian have survived?
Now, if, as the Creator said, and I'm going to tell you why he wouldn't have survived it. Right. And then why no Egyptian would be there.
Right.
Shepherd was an abomination.
Okay.
So now, they don't mind having wearing the wool, but they weren't so much eating that lamb.
Okay.
And that's why Moses said the abominations of the Egyptians. We don't want to sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians in your presence.
Right.
That's why we go 3 days journey means we're going a good ways out the borders of Egypt.
Right.
All right. So now that there will be no Egyptian now. Now we know an Egyptian came out with us.
Right.
And we know we had some Egyptians there because we read about it later on about Shulamith's son, whose father was an Egyptian.
Right.
And he blasphemed the name of God. All right,
okay.
so we know a mixed multitude of different people came out with us because when the jailhouse opened up, everybody leaving.
Okay.
The country bankrupt, everybody leaving.
Right.
Right. But to say that the firstborn of the Egyptians didn't die like that, then that would say, well, we might as well not accept the Exodus story.
Okay. Thank you, Nasik, for your time, the effort tonight, and the people well appreciated it. And hopefully we could do this again next week. Do you want to give some closing remarks before we conclude?
Okay. Well, one of my closing remarks is, first of all, any mistakes I made was just strictly mine, and not being as sharp as I should have been. But it wasn't intentional. And also, I thank for people who are loaning me their ears and time. And I hope I was able to present myself, adequately enough where I might have been able to shed some light on some subjects. But and any questions, you get back to People's IL, and I guess you get back to me in the future.
Definitely.
And any problems, I'll try to be better as I go along in it. But I may not be on every single week trying to share some information and insight.
Right.
But I'll try to do most because sometimes I might be out of town a lot traveling.
Okay.
But I hope you can enjoy, and I'm always willing to share. But I never go to Sidra. That's coming up. Like say this shop about Bishlop. I'll have to talk about Bishlop after Bishlop.
Okay.
All right. So, and any question you want to ask, that means that anybody that keep up with the Sidros, they got a chance to read, and they can ask me questions on some points, on a technical point that maybe didn't come up in a service because a teacher in the service may not have that much time to elaborate.
Beautiful. All right, then. So, thank you, Crown Prince. And next week, hopefully, we'll be covering Beshalak. And I thank you once again, Crown Prince, for your understanding. And
I'd like everybody to try to help support d.c.b, because they're doing a wonderful job, and they have a real laudable mission statement.
hallelujah.
So through the videos, whenever, try to show appreciation as best you can.
Hallelujah. Torah for that, Nasik.
Yeah.
So I'll be speaking to you. Shalom, shalom. May the Most High God bless you.
Okay, same way, all of us. Shalom.
Shalom. So as you can see, that was the Crown Prince, and with the understanding, and I don't know if my brother Zion Lex is still on. You could call me on the 646 number. All right, Zion Lex, if you're still on, you wanted to address a question that was asked earlier, you could call me on the 646 number. Yes, Nasiks Zurishaddai, you're going to gain that knowledge and that understanding from a deeper point of view. I know he could speak fast sometimes, but he was actually in a good pace tonight. So, and I think that this platform will be good for people who like to delve a little bit deeper into the understanding and meaning of chapters and things that we might miss out. Crown Prince is very good at looking at those things thoroughly. Like today, I always, he brought out the flock and the herds, So, and you could take it out of the flock or the herds. So I'm going to go back and study that, go over it with other brothers, see what they say about it. But those are the points. He's very technical, and that's good for learning, because when you become very technical, you start bringing out little things, and it helps you, So, my brother Chief Abdiel, if you out there still listening, please call me in on the 646. In fact, let me see if I could contact him, and then that way he could ask his question. He could answer, actually. He wanted to answer something. So let me see. I'm going to connect with him right now, see if he didn't start his class yet. He might have started his class already. Shalom. Shalom. Hey, what's going on? Did you still want to come on air and answer? All right, so I'm going to put you on right now.
All right, guys,
family.
we're about to go back.
Shalom, family. We have Chief Abdiel on live, and he wanted to answer a question that was asked earlier. I forgot what question it was. If you could brief us on it, my brother.
Thank you very much, Chief. First and foremost, shalom to you, Chief.
Shalom to you,
shalom to the Uzi Alewi listening audience. I want to say shalom to Crown Prince Zurishaddai. I just wanted to chime in on the discussion. I think Crown Prince said some very powerful things that I wanted to chime in on briefly. And one of the things that I think that escapes the reader at times when we're reading the Tanakh is a lot of times when we're reading the Bible in English.
Right.
As Hebrew readers, we know that at times there's a danger in that. Sometimes we may miss things. So,
right.
For instance, the very, very first time that the Bible speaks about God hardening Pharaoh's heart is in Exodus chapter 7, verse 3. And I'm going to ask you, listening audience, that if they have a Bible near them, especially a Hebrew Bible, that they pull that up right now so that they can see something. In the very first place that the Creator says to Moses that he will harden Pharaoh's heart, I want everyone to notice something. We are in the book of Exodus, chapter 7, verse 3. And I'm going to start at verse 1 really quick.
Okay.
And Yehudah said to Moshe, see, I have made you a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you, and Aaron your brother shall speak to Pharaoh, that he send the people of Israel out of his land. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. The first thing that stood out to me about this is the language utilized in Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
Because in other places where it speaks about God hardening Pharaoh's heart, the Hebrew verb is different. For instance, the verb in Exodus 7, verse 3 is akshay, 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 which is spelled aleph with a patah underneath it. Then there's a kuf with a shawah. There's a shin with a segol, and then there's a letter hey.
Right.
Now, the aleph as a prefix is the first person future, meaning I will. And the shoresh, the root, is cheshe, which is kuf shin hey. And that means to harden or to stiffen or to make stubborn. Or there are places in the Bible where this same root is used to denote or describe an act of cruelty. For instance, when we read about the incident with Simeon and Levi, and how they went through the city of Shechem and they tore it up.
Right.
Jacob's blessing to his children in 49 and 7, and speaking of them, he says, instruments of cruelty are in their hands. And what do you think is the Hebrew word that is utilized there? It's the same word that's utilized here to strengthen Pharaoh's heart, which is keshe.
Okay.
Which is significant because then now we're not just literally speaking about strengthening or hardening his heart, but it's really pointing out that the Creator is giving Pharaoh his heart's desire. Because the word here used, keshe, denotes cruelty. Cruelty is not necessarily just a physical act. Cruelty is a state of being first.
Right.
So in the Bible's first entrance in giving us the idea that God will intervene in this situation, the first thing the Bible is letting us know, if you're paying attention to the language that's being utilized, is that the Creator is about to give Pharaoh the desire of his heart, which is cruel. We read in several places in the Psalms that delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desire.
Right.
We read in other places in the Psalms that, generally speaking, the Creator will give you your heart's desire. Right. Therefore, be very conscious of what your heart is desiring.
Right.
Because the Creator will give you your heart's desire. That's why we have to always make sure or ensure that our thoughts are in the right place.
Absolutely.
Because God will strengthen your heart no matter which direction you're trying to go.
Right.
So you have to be very careful about your heart's desire.
Right.
So one of the things I loved about what Crown Prince shared is that the first thing he pointed out is that free will is a prerequisite of creation.
Absolutely.
We can't function in the world without this item that we're calling free will. Because if we are forced to keep the Creator's commandments and we have no choice in the matter,
right,
then the first thing we become is robots and not living beings.
And not living beings, right.
The second thing we become is an entity which has nothing to do with the image of God.
Right.
The Creator is a free will being. The Bible says in several places he does whatever his heart shall choose.
Right.
And we were created in his image. So if he has free will, certainly we are endowed with free will as well.
Right.
So to say that God hardened Pharaoh's heart is in respect a breach of Pharaoh's free will is simply a faulty understanding of the Bible's teachings, which Crown Prince clearly brought out.
Right.
Because if you think that the term hardening Pharaoh's heart denotes that the Creator, in some respect, intervened with his free will, you have lost what the Bible is trying to show. The Bible is actually revealing that this was Pharaoh's heart's desire, not to let the children of Israel go. But
Right.
as these signs are being demonstrated before Pharaoh's court, and he's noticing that his magicians and those who he places his trust in not demonstrate with the same effective power that Hebrew Aharon is, he's now considering that maybe the God they represent got more juice and power than the God I believe I am and I worship.
Mm.
And in so realizing it, he is losing his strength, so that he does not want to let them go, but he may be forced to let them go because he realizes he can't fight. So the Creator steps in and intervenes and goes, "Nah, well, check this out.
Right.
Put strength in your heart."
Right.
Notice it doesn't say God changed his mind.
Right.
And this is something everybody forgets. Notice it does not say God changed his mind.
Right.
It says it strengthened his heart, which means he already was on this path, and he already had this thought, and the Creator just enhanced his mind so as to think he could pull this off.
Right.
And these are the dangers now of entertaining that which is immoral.
Right.
Because the more you entertain it, the more the forces in the universe come together and even conspire to give you your heart's desire, but that may be towards your demise.
Right.
So in other places in the book of Exodus, when we read about God hardening Pharaoh's heart,
Right.
the verb kazak is used.
Right.
And kazak literally in Hebrew literally means to make strong, or even it's used to as an idea or as an ideal, as a principle, like to encourage someone. Encourage is a principle. So it's also used in that respect.
Right.
But the way it's still used throughout the biblical narrative is what we call grammatically the PL stem, which is the intensive action.
Right.
So when the Creator says in the PL stem that he's hardening Pharaoh's heart, it is letting us know that the Creator is intervening, yes, but on behalf of Pharaoh's already
desire.
He is actually enhancing this man's desire, meaning it is his desire, meaning Pharaoh's. It is Pharaoh's desire and Pharaoh's will to not let this people go. And again, I like to point out that the very first time the Bible speaks of hardening Pharaoh's heart is Exodus 7:3, and we find an all different verb there, which is keshah. And keshah denotes cruelty, and cruelty represents an attitude first before it represents an action. So when the Creator speaks about hardening Pharaoh's heart, if we go back and trace the vernacular, it becomes clear what the Creator is actually doing. He's not intervening on behalf of Pharaoh to the point where he is interfering with Pharaoh's free will. He is strengthening Pharaoh's heart so as to get his heart's desire. And the teachable moment, and that's why I wanted to chime in, the teachable moment is that we need to be very, very clear that which we entertain can be toward detriment. Because the Creator will enhance your heart and give you your heart's desire no matter what it is. Especially if it is towards fulfilling something he so chooses to see occur. And in this case, he wanted to demonstrate his signs, his power, his royalty, his kingship. He wanted the Egyptian people to know there is a difference between me and what you call God. There's a difference between your people and my people. And in reference to the firstborn, when the Creator goes throughout the firstborn in the house of Pharaoh and the firstborn of those in the dungeon, Crown Prince once again is on point as always when he says we have to realize it wasn't just Pharaoh in his court. It was the entire Egyptian people that this matter evolved and revolved around. So that all Egyptians, no matter their station in life, felt like they were greater than the Hebrews. And guess what? Since we know the America we call today, we refer to it biblically as the second Egypt, we can see the same thing play out. Go to the Bible Belt.
Right.
Go and visit the poor white people who are sometimes described as white trash.
Right.
And notice that they still look at you, no matter what your station is in life,
That's
even
right.
if you make more money than them,
Right.
even if you carry yourself better than them, even if you are treated with respect globally and recognized as such throughout the world, they will still consider you lower than them. So what the Bible is showing us in more ways than one by looking into the annals of history and then looking into the annals of our current modern era is that we're seeing the same thing play out over and over again.
Yep.
The people who defy God will always defy God's people.
Definitely. My brother, once again, I thank you for the Jews. I know you're teaching your Hebrew class. Just drop a little message for those that might not know about your Hebrew class. Let them know before you get back about your Hebrew class, your museum tours. This is somebody asking about the museum tour and all that. So can you drop a little something before you go back to your
Okay.
class? How they could get
Okay,
in
thank you.
contact with you.
Thank you very much, Chief. So first things first, our Hebrew classes are Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you'd like to join those classes, you can email me at zionlex, 2x's, at gmail.com, or you can reach out to Chief Uziel and he can give you all info.
Okay.
We just started up a Hebrew class, another beginner's course on Fridays exclusively on Shabbat evenings, and this will also be same time from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. We do a Torah class every Tuesday, which is today. So we actually brought some of the people from our Torah class just to be present to watch Crown Prince share his information, which was powerful, and I asked the class to chime in and, make your presence felt because I thought it was significant enough, especially since this is the Sidra that we're in this week, and I wanted the class to kind of be able to see and experience that. Also, I wanted to expose some of them to your channel, which I've asked them to subscribe, and they can all hear. So make sure, guys, as you're sharing the video and as you're liking the video, that you're definitely hitting the subscribe button. There's pretty much not too many videos of me that you can see without a brother who is my mentor. It's the brother that you can hear right now, Chief Uziel. A teacher in the community, a leader in the community. Many of my videos include him, and I can tell you right now there's some powerful information that comes from this channel. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say, Chief. I want to definitely give it right back to you so you can continue doing what you're doing, and thank you for allowing me to chime in.
Anytime, my brother. Shalom, shalom.
All right, shalom, shalom.
So that was our brother, Chief Avdiel Ben Levi. And once again, thanking all of you for chiming in. I know it was last minute. I didn't announce it. It was just on. And I'm glad for the ones of you that did come on, that you came on. So hopefully we'll be doing this every Tuesday. And you could come on and get an in-depth look of Torah. Sometimes we don't get to do this at on Shabbat because, we got to cut through those portions and try to highlight the main things in those portions. But Nasik Zurishaddai is a person that will get in detail and in depth with certain things. So thanking all of you once again. And I'm grateful to the creator of heaven and earth. If you would like to donate, you can hit the super chat. You can also, in the video under the descriptions, through PayPal or through my, I have another link there for, what do you call the other thing? Forgot at this moment, but something else there. Yes, but thanking everybody for being with us, for chiming in with us. May the creator of heaven and earth continue to bless us all and keep us. Shalom, shalom, family. And I will see you on, hopefully on Shabbat Night Talk. Shalom, shalom.